Hi, hello, namaste. A very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us for today's Akash Byju's live webinar. बहुत बहुत स्वागत करती हूँ और मैं आपकी होस्ट तनु सरदाना हूँ. I'll be taking forward this webinar now. Now the most important thing is कि आपको थैंक यू बोले बिना ये वेबिनार इनकम्प्लीट होने वाला है. आपने हमेशा एक बहुत ही अच्छा रिस्पांस दिया है for all these webinars. So today also I promise you one thing, that this is going to be a very fruitful and informative webinar. In fact, मैं आपको सजेस्ट करूंगी कि अगर आपने पिछला कोई वेबिनार मिस किया है, then उसके सारे लिंक्स आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में मिल जाएंगे. This is one channel जहां पे सबसे पहले इंफॉर्मेशन दी जाती है for all the competitive exams, and we keep conducting such webinars. So अगर कोई भी वेबिनार आपको मिस हुआ है तो अभी के अभी आप डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में उसको चेक भी कर सकते हैं. एंड यस, don't forget to press on the bell icon so that you are the first person who's notified about all these enriching informative webinars. लेकिन अब बात कर लेते हैं प्रेजेंट की, जहां पे आज एक बहुत ही इंफॉर्मेटिव वेबिनार के साथ हम वापस लौट आए हैं. एंड अगेन आई प्रॉमिस यू दिस इज गोइंग टू बी रिवॉर्डिंग एज वेल. सो जितने भी क्वेश्चंस हैं आपके व्हेन इट कम्स टू जेईई एडवांस 2023, तो उन क्वेश्चंस को आप चैट बॉक्स में मेंशन कर सकते हैं और आंसर मैं नहीं दूंगी हमेशा की तरह. मेरे साथ पैनलिस्ट जुड़ने वाले हैं इस वेबिनार में, एंड आई एम गोइंग टू मेक श्योर कि आपके सारे जितने भी क्वेरीज हैं, कंसर्न्स हैं, कंफ्यूजन्स हैं, डाउट्स हैं, वो सब इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे इस 1 घंटे में रिजॉल्व हो. और जब ये वेबिनार फिनिश हो, आपकी लाइफ में काफी क्लैरिटी हो अपने आगे करियर को लेकर, अपने गोल्स को लेकर. सो क्या क्या डिस्कस करने वाले हैं आज हम, वो भी मैं आपको जल्दी से बता देती हूँ. all know that JEE Advanced 2023 is just round the corner. Nervousness बढ़ रही है शायद, है ना? लेकिन we will make sure कि जितना भी ये stressful जो event अभी आसपास हुआ है, मौका जो हो रहा है, उसको हम ease out कर दें by resolving some of your doubts today. तो आज वही होने वाला है कि कैसे आप अपने time को, अपने पूरे plan को strategically change कर सकते हैं. In fact, last minute के tips और tricks भी यहाँ पे बहुत सारे discussions के साथ होने वाली है. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my today's guest for this afternoon. फर्स्ट गेस्ट जो मेरे आज हैं वो है मिस्टर संजय कुमार शर्मा. एक ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्शन मैं आप सभी लोगों को उनके बारे में देना चाहूंगी. ही इज अ पैशनेट एंड हाईली स्किल्ड फिजिक्स फैकल्टी विद अ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट डिग्री फ्रॉम IIT Roorkee. He has been preparing and mentoring students for JEE Main and Advanced for more than 9 years. Several of his students have achieved top positions in IIT JEE and are studying at IITs, NITs, IIScs and IICR. His dedication to his students and his expertise in physics have enabled them to reach their goals and fulfill their dreams. So, Sanjay sir, a very warm welcome to you. How are you?
Thank you so very much, Tanu ma'am, for having me in this session. And I'm sure that each and every participant in this session and all my viewers, all my dear students, after the session, they all will be having a very fine clarity, not only about the academics part of JEE Advanced, even that what are the best strategies which they are supposed to follow in the last 15 days. So I'm very excited for this session, and thank you once again, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. And moving on to my second guest for this afternoon, he is Mr. Venkatesh, a very incredibly passionate and highly motivated teacher with a postgraduate degree from IIT Guwahati, majoring in chemistry. The past 14 years, he has been preparing and mentoring students for the joint entrance exam. He has guided countless students for success in the IIT JEE, and his dedication to helping his students achieve their dreams is unparalleled. So we're very lucky, sir, that you're here with us. Very warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you, Kunza, everyone, and very good afternoon to all the Kunza panelists out here and all the viewers. Again, I'm pretty sure, so you will be getting very, very good points out of this webinar, so which will definitely, Kunza, helpful for your JEE Advanced 2023. Thank you very much again, ma'am.
Absolutely, sir. We're looking forward for this amazing, enriching session with you. Now, moving on to my final guest for this afternoon, he's Mr. Abhishek. He's a seasoned mathematics educator with 8+ years of teaching experience. He graduated from IIT Roorkee with a dual degree in applied mathematics. His guidance and mentorship has enabled students to achieve remarkable results in JEE Main and Advanced and pursue higher education from esteemed institutes such as IITs, ISIs, IITs, and NIT. So, Mr. Abhishek, sir, a very warm welcome to you also. I think now my team is complete and, we are ready to answer and take those questions from everybody.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks to all the students who joined us. It will be an exciting and highly informative session. Yeah.
Cool. So जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स ने हमें अभी अभी ज्वाइन किया है, मैं आपको एक चीज और यहाँ पे बोलना चाहूंगी, इस वेबिनार को अपने फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली के साथ भी शेयर कीजिए, इंफॉर्मेशन को पास ऑन करने दीजिए, बिकॉज यहाँ पे बहुत कुछ डिस्कस होने वाला है जो आपकी गोल्स को, आपकी जो डिस्कशंस हैं, जो ड्रीम्स हैं, जो अक्सर आप अपने फैमिली के साथ या फिर अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ करते हैं, वो अचीव करने में आपको जरूर मदद मिलेगी। क्या क्या डिस्कस होने वाला है फटाफट से मैं बता देती हूँ। हाउ टू स्टडी इन द लास्ट 15 डेज, क्योंकि जब टाइम कम होता है तो नर्वसनेस ज्यादा होती है, लेकिन उसके साथ डील करने के तरीके सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक्सपीरियंस लोगों को पता होते हैं, जो मेरे साथ आज मौजूद है। मूविंग ऑन, सब्जेक्ट वाइज टिप्स एंड ट्रिक्स की भी डिस्कशन हम करेंगे कि कैसे लास्ट मिनट आप वो तरकीबें लगा सकते हैं। थर्ड, we'll be talking about the stress जो अभी इस वक्त मैक्सिमम लोगों को होने वाला है, लेकिन उसको कैसे गायब करना है वो अगेन सिर्फ और सिर्फ मेंटर्स को ही पता होता है। टाइम मैनेजमेंट की भी बात करेंगे, क्योंकि उसके बिना आपकी सारी प्लानिंग फेल हो सकती है। उसके बाद कॉमन मिस्टेक्स जो आपको अवॉइड करनी चाहिए इन द लास्ट 15 डेज, उसके ऊपर भी डिस्कशन होगा। एग्जाम डेज के ऊपर भी हम बात करेंगे। डूज एंड डोंट्स जो शायद आपको अभी नहीं पता क्योंकि आप फर्स्ट टाइम प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं, बट दीज मेंटर्स दे हैव ऑब्जर्व्ड स्टूडेंट्स फॉर सो मेनी इयर्स, नो व्हाट आर द कॉमन मिस्टेक्स, तो उनके ऊपर भी हम यहाँ पे चर्चा करने वाले हैं। अगर ये एक्साइटिंग लग रहा है तो मैं बोलूंगी नोटपैड और पेन साथ में रख लीजिए, क्योंकि ऐसी टिप्स बार बार नहीं आती हैं। सो दिस इज वन प्लेटफॉर्म जो आपको एनेबल कर रहा है टू पार्टिसिपेट ऑल्सो, तो अपने क्वेश्चंस भी हम तक जरूर पहुंचाइए। एंड आई थिंक चैट बॉक्स में ऑलरेडी हलचल स्टार्ट भी हो चुकी है, सो मैं ज्यादा डिले नहीं करूंगी। एंड फट से मैं अपना पहला सवाल जो है वो पूछने वाली हूँ संजय सर से, बिकॉज काफी पेशेंटली आप लोग मुझे सुन रहे हैं। सो माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू संजय सर इज कि लास्ट 15 डेज जिसका अब एंजाइटी भी बढ़ रही है, नर्वसनेस हो रही है और थोड़ा सा थ्रिल भी कहीं ना कहीं जनरेट हो चुका है, तो कैसे स्टडी करना चाहिए इन आखिरी के 15 दिनों में?
All right. So, first of all, let me congratulate each one of them for their, JEE main performance. And I believe that is something is the first booster and an impulsive push for each and every student who is writing JEE Advanced. And that itself, is a achievement for them. So, which will surely help them for the JEE Advanced too. And I want every student to celebrate it, feel it on a daily basis. Because the one layer is already done. JEE main phase 1 or phase 2, whatever was the best attempt for them, that part is done. And that should be carried forward till the JEE Advanced exam. Now coming to last 15 days strategy. So I would suggest a couple of points. So first and foremost, very important point is that first is about your ongoing assessment. Because in this last 15 days, what kind of assessment pattern you are following other than your revision is gonna be to create a greater level of impact. So if the revision part is done along with PYQs, that's previous year questions, then you can go ahead with the assessment in full scale. So point one I'm talking over here is that if in case your revision part is done, you can completely rely upon on assessment process. You can give a full scale time, investment, efforts only for the assessment part. Coming to the second, point, in case you are still in the journey of revision, then you can opt 1 or 2 mock tests with absolutely obvious paper 1 and paper 2 in each 3 days of time, keeping in the real-time simulation of JEE Advanced. So this is second category in case you are going ahead with your revision. So in that case, after each 2 days of time, you can give a 1 day exclusively for the mock test. So while handling PYQs, now here a very important factor comes कि जब students PYQs को generally handle करते हैं, so I have seen lot of students that they'll go through the question and somehow in case they are not getting the answer, so somehow they get dependent either on text solution or on the video solution. So while handling PYQs, don't just go for a video solution or text solution, rather explore other best possibilities as well. Because जो आप एग्जाम फाइनली लिखने जा रहे हैं JEE Advanced, all the questions either in physics, chemistry or mathematics are gonna be crafted very near to the previous year questions. So to understand the classical behavior of each question is very, very important. So in that question, and the best part is to explore other best possibilities. So now you must be thinking that how to get all these other best possibilities in the remaining amount of time. So nothing to worry about it. We at Akash Institute have already done this job for you people, and you are just a click away. So with the help of Akash, My Akash app, we have done the complete in-depth analysis of last previous year question, where you can access those previous year questions, not only to get the solution, rather you can understand that what are the best possible questions can be crafted from that particular question. So these are the activities which will strengthen you academically. So when I mentioned about the assessment, one, assessment, come revision, and third, how to deal with the PYQs question. So these are the activities which will certainly strengthen you academically in this last 15 days. Now coming to some physical activities, because exam is around the corner and the phase 1, phase 2 is already done. And when it comes to JEE Advanced, obviously the nerve system and the biological clock get a little bit disturbance, So that is also very, very important to have a classical balance in your academic enrichment as well as your physical appearance, right? So when it comes to lot of things, what you can, get into, things can induce in your mind in this remaining days could be that how can you keep yourself stress-free? How can you keep yourself highly motivated and moreover the goal oriented? Though there is a long list, but first of all, I would suggest do what it works for you. Maybe for some students, they are, under stress and they are struggling with the problems. So if taking 5 to 10 minute shower works for you, you just go for it. Though I suggest wasting of water is not a good deal, but at this point of time, let's do that because it's really making an impact for you, right? So go for it and try to be very close to nature, because these are the some natural resources. When we found them, when we found ourselves very close to that, somehow, it helps us to be stress-free as well. So though we should not, be very much confined on certain activities, but I would rather say that go for the activities which really works for you. It could be a meditation, maybe in terms of worshiping or prayer, could be another option, is staying more closer to the nature. So that's how in the remaining 15 days, keeping a very fine balance between your academics as well as on your day-to-day routine is very, very important, because now there is no fight of learning something new. It's done, right? The assessment, your knowledge check is already being done in JEE Main. So there is no fight of learning something new in this last 15 days. It is something, how can you take the best out of your learning, what you have done, what you have invested in terms of your last 1 year, 2 year of preparation of time for JEE Main and Advanced. And then how can you transform that entire knowledge, learning experience in terms of the selection in JEE Advanced. So keeping a fine balance in both of the things is really which I will emphasize in the last 15 days, ma'am.
Absolutely, sir. So यहाँ पे आपने बहुत अच्छे से एक mention किया कि it's not just about studies at this moment, but how you take care of your mental health. That is also very, very important, because वही आपको और better results देने में भी help करेगी. So एक अच्छे note पे हमने इस webinar की शुरुआत की है, जहाँ पे we are asking you not just to focus on your studies, but also focus on your mental health. Spend time with nature, चाहे वो एक छोटा सा shower, एक ऐसा act ही क्यों ना हो जो आपको refresh feel कराने में मदद करे. Now moving on to the most scary subject, at least for me, it is mathematics. और मैंने last time भी notice किया था in our webinar where students were showing कि mathematics में थोड़ा सा problem आ रहा है उन लोगों को. So I'll straight away go to Abhishek sir and ask कि ऐसी कौन सी tips and tricks हैं जो हमारे students master करने के लिए सीख सकते हैं through you, क्योंकि अगर सबको अभी फिलहाल अपना maths में जो है score boost करना है. So what are those tips and tricks according to you?
Right, ma'am. Very rightly said. If you see the recent trend, maths has become the scarier topic, or a subject where the averages of the students are low compared to other two subjects. So my advice here to the students in the last 15 days, when it comes to mathematics, is to have a targeted approach, right? So basically, they should double down on the known concepts and also most important concepts. So one should have an intersection of these two. They should study the known concepts and most important concepts. So here at Akash, we have done an analysis of last 15 years, like what are the concepts which are easily understandable and easy to solve at this point of time, and also which are of high scoring, right? So such concepts are vectors, complex numbers, and also matrix determinants, where there is an straightforward approach to solving, and also sequence series. These 3 or 4 chapters alone account to 25% of the total marks. So one can focus on solving these 3 or 4 concepts with the help of their notes and also the PYQs. Right. And the second point, and also the very important point, is to also be concerned about the speed of solving a particular question. It's very important, right? Because you cannot get stuck at a question for 10 minutes or 9 minutes. You cannot afford to do that in the JEE Advanced, right? So when they solve these PYQs in this last 15 days time, they should keep a time limit. And also one can address this speed of solving. They should overwork on their speed of solving through mock tests. As Sanjay has said, once you start giving a mock test on a frequent basis, so then you'll automatically get accustomed to this speed of solving. Your approach will also improve. Your approach may also change, and your thinking ability will also improve. So one has to be wary of the speed of solving, and by keeping time limits. And the third point, which I would suggest, is to avoid that tricky kind of concepts or any tricky questions at this point of time, which will lower their confidence and also take a lot of time. For example, you take an integration chapter, indefinite integration chapter. So sometimes it so happens that we don't know the right substitution at that point of time, or for some, it may take hours to know that right kind of substitution. So rather than spending time or dwelling on what substitution it will be, one can avoid such questions. So you can avoid such questions during the practice, or you can avoid such questions during the mock test and spend that time on the other questions. So avoiding a tricky question or an unknown question is quite important at this point of time. So these are the 3 suggestions which I would advise the students to follow when it comes to the mathematics subject to boost their scores.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, sir. In fact, I'm hoping that ये आपकी जो original planning है उसके अंदर अगर आप implement करेंगे तो आपके score जो है वो better हो सकते हैं. लेकिन how can we miss the chemistry subject? So Venkatesh sir, this is the most important thing, because जब तक chemistry नहीं बैठेगी बच्चों में, उनके subject के साथ तो बात कैसे बनेगी? If you guys were waiting, so here is the answer. So sir, tell me those tips and tricks जिनको अभी apply करके students अपने score को better कर सकते हैं.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Again, chemistry is the one which definitely boost your rank, because it's one of the most easiest subject to score marks out of the 3 subjects. And so in that chemistry as a point of view, so I will just try to give you the points related to the physical chemistry, organic and inorganic. What should be your strategy for the next 15 days for the organic, for the physical, and for the inorganic chemistry? Coming to the point for the physical chemistry, it's the formulas are really important. So every student must have a formula sheet, and preferably they must write. If it is a handwritten, that will be much better than taking out the printout from here and there. So because if you write it down, so you will definitely remember it. So one must have all the formula sheets at one place, and you must also have a values. Like let us suppose in previous question RT. So if you remember the value of 0.0821 into 273, that that value, or into 300, that value, if you remember, you can save the time instead of sitting there and calculating that all in the examination hall. So you don't have to spend time in that. So whatever values, if you can remember, okay, so try to remember all the values, and of course first you jot them down on the piece of paper, and all the formulas. And more important is the formulas. If you are writing down and if you are remembering them, you must remember with a very full clarity. I mean, like, okay, so not even a single plus or minus you should miss out, because if you miss out on one plus minus, everything is gone. So then you have to, if by chance if it happens in original exam, if you don't remember the formula exactly, what we can do is definitely you have to derive the formula, right? That's always is possible. But if you're having the formula list, that will definitely save your time. So this is the physical chemistry point of view. For organic chemistry point of view, we say there are some multiple points are there in it. The first point comes is the common names. This is nowadays trend has become that key questions are being asked based on the common names. If you remember 2022 in paper 1, question number 18, in fact there was a matrix match. in the list, it's a list type. In the list one, there are common names have been given. So if you don't know the common names, absolutely you cannot solve the question at all. So knowing the common names is vitally important for organic chemistry point of view. Now, from where should I know the common names? How many common names should I remember? This is a very common question you may get. It's better is you remember the common names of only NCERT. That should be much sufficient, much more than sufficient. You can have extra common names which normally your teacher gives, okay, in your classroom. So go through all the common names that are given in NCERT to whatever common names have been given by your teacher in the classroom notes. These are the common names one should remember. So this is one point. Point two is about the stereochemistry. Now, in JEE mains, normally questions are not that much asked in a stereochemistry point of view in organic chemistry. But in advance, and more importantly, in the recent trend, the questions are being more oftenly asked based on the stereochemistry part of the organic chemistry, which is most trickiest, and until and unless you don't understand the stereochemistry in full detail, so it will be very difficult to solve the questions of stereochemistry. So I would suggest for organic chemistry, common names everybody should remember, and two, okay, so everybody should remember should have a clear understanding about the stereochemistry. Third point is about students should know all the general reactions and the named reactions which are given in NCERT to some extent of whatever your teacher gives in the classroom notes. Now, many people have this fear, and they will also get fascinated by some fancy name reactions. Okay, so don't need to worry about that, fancy names and all. So it's better is you stick to the NCERT common names and name reactions, as well as the whatever name reactions your teacher gives in the classroom notes. So common names, stereochemistry, and name reactions, general reactions. No need to worry about any fancy name reactions. So these are the point related to organic chemistry. Coming to inorganic chemistry, NCERT. NCERT is it's a holy book for inorganic chemistry. If you can remember each and every line of NCERT, that should be much more than sufficient even for the advance as well. Questions in advance, it's not in a straightforward question, will not be asked in inorganic chemistry. What is happening is nowadays even they are clubbing the questions of inorganic chemistry with the physical chemistry. Okay. So that's how the questions are maybe probably getting a little difficult. Otherwise, the questions will be a very basic questions only of inorganic chemistry. And most of the times what happens, students, after looking at questions of inorganic chemistry, they just simply leave it out. But what I suggest is you spend like 1 or 2 minutes, definitely you will get the answer. You will get some or other clue out of that question. You have to just spend some time on the inorganic chemistry question. Right. So as far as inorganic chemistry point is concerned, NCERT is much more sufficient, and okay, so your classroom notes should be the sufficient. This is all you have to do for the next 15 days in chemistry point of view.
Absolutely, sir. तो बहुत ही in-depth detail में यहाँ पे sir ने explain किया है how to prepare for this subject. Now moving on to a very important subject again, when we talk about physics, उसके अपने issues रहते हैं संजय sir. So how do students take care of those issues, और ऐसी कौन सी tips हैं जिनको apply करके again they can score well?
All right. So from physics point of view, there is a good news because based on the previous year analysis, if you will observe the performance, especially of top rankers who make it into IITs, the best score always is being obtained in physics. So that's the good news. So relax. It's really important to boost up your level up to JEE Advanced because as sir was mentioning that in some part of chemistry, the role of NCERT plays a significant role. But when it comes to physics, particularly for JEE Advanced, it's a very clever combination of theory, database, and the application in-depth knowledge. So first and foremost thing, I'm sure all of you have boosted up to JEE Advanced level, but keeping your fundamental touch always on priority. Because we always say that the rise of any tower or of any building depends that how fundamentally it was strong, right? So fundamental level of approach needs to be very, very strong. Reason, JEE Advanced is not only a game of theory or formula, it's really a test of sheer IQ and evolve thinking process. So it is highly important to understand what exams ask for. So keep this thing in mind. In terms of revision, yes, please apply one rule where 2 days of revision and third day of test. As I mentioned in the previous talk that, you should have a fine balance in your revision as well as the assessment which you are getting into. Now, when it comes to revision, I've seen many students, they simply start with chapter number 1, moving to chapter number 2, chapter number 3, and so on. That could not be a classical way to revise in this remaining amount of time. So there has to be a way. What we generally suggest, that revision has to be planned in a very smart way. For example, you want to revise mechanics, right? In mechanics, I would suggest rather starting from kinematics part, you start from Newton's laws of motion. And in Newton's laws of motion, you don't need to start with fundamental definition of force. You start with friction, because that's how the questions are being designed. So being in that particular chapter, you can look all around. Being in Newton's laws of motion, you can really imagine about what could have happened in motion in a straight line, motion in a plane, and going forward, what could happen in work, energy, power, right? So focusing on central topics and on their subtopics has to be the first priority in your revision. Point number 1. Now, at the same time, for example, some part of the day you are spending on mechanics. At the same time, please welcome such chapters which ask you not to write more. For example, ray optics, for example, unit and measurement. These are the topics where they want you to read, they want you to analyze the previous year questions at the larger scale, rather than getting into a new problem all the times. So in revision also, I would say selecting the chapters is one piece of information. And then how do you really club that chapter with a theory dominated chapter? At the same time, you are building up your conceptual learning, you are building up your mathematical aspect. At the same time, you are dealing with some sort of chapters where questions are being designed which are dominating by theory or the information which is already being given in that particular chapter. So having a fine balance between revision, assessment should be really focused upon, specifically as far as physics subject is concerned.
Absolutely, sir. I really like the point कि आप हर बात ना बहुत ही positive note पे start करते हैं. तो बच्चे पहले ही, they are very happy and excited to, indulge in this conversation. कि okay, some good news is there.
Because as I mentioned, ma'am, these all are achievers. The people who are listening to this session, and those who are appearing for the JEE Advanced. For them, I believe the battle of getting into problems, solving it, and struggling with the concept, that journey is over. That's why I'm over and over again saying one point, that start feeling it. Celebrate what you have done, gentlemen, in JEE Main 1, phase 1, phase 2. That is something which will always keep you so excited, so motivated that you don't need any lecture, any statement to just get motivated. Okay, I need one statement, I need one acronym, which I'll read and I'll feel very motivated. You don't need that. You already have that stuff through your JEE Main or JEE Main phase 1 or phase 2 exam, and which will really drive you on a daily basis. And I'm sure it is going to work for JEE Advanced exam as well.
Absolutely, sir. If mentors are like you, who are, treating exam like a festival, because last time, when I was in this webinar, one of the mentors panelists said that, treat your exam like a festival. So this thing has stayed with me. You should treat it like an exam, but also like a festival. So the celebration is on, participate to the fullest. Now, with the enthusiasm जो फिलहाल मेरे panelists में है, मैं चाहती हूँ कि वो आप तक भी पहुँचे. So I am going to take those questions, जो थोड़े से stressed out questions at this moment. I can see the nervousness in the students, which is natural and healthy also. So there is this question specifically. He wants to know how to maximize each mock test. Sometimes I feel very demotivated if I score less in mocks. So Venkatesh sir, would you like to answer?
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, this is a very, very common concept point, first of all. So there is no harm in feeling that you get demotivated, because this very commonly happens. It might have even happened with me when I was preparing for myself, when I was writing JEE in the year 2007. So it happens naturally. Now, how to overcome this? The best way is solve the PYQs of that related chapter or related concepts. That will definitely boost your confidence. Because normally what happens is the mock tests which conducts, be it Akash or be it any institute, they conduct the paper which are higher than the original JEE Advanced level. Okay, so do not get demotivated by the question, by the marks what you get in mock tests. Those are just a mock test. Those are not the real test. If you want to see how the real question actually comes in JEE Advanced, solve the PYQs. I'm pretty sure that will definitely boost your confidence. And it has happened. It has happened with many of my students as well. That's the best
a great
way.
piece of advice. Abhishek sir, would you like to add something to this? Because abhi, chat box mein I can sense that बहुत stress तो लोगों को है ही, and they also want to work on their confidence level. So anything, one tip जो आपने बहुत सारे students को शायद दी हो, उनके लिए work की हो.
Right. So as Venkatesh has said, ma'am, so one has to not worry about what kind of score they get in a particular exam, but to look at how they can improve from that particular exam to the next examination, because these mock tests are equally tough or tougher than the JEE Advanced. So what they have to work on is, if there is a question which they have made a mistake or which they have skipped, you find a relevant question of the PYQ and practice it. And also, they should note this point that the cutoff mark of a JEE Advanced last year was 53 out of 360 marks. So which is close to the 15% or 17%. And also in the prior year prior to that, it is basically 63 marks out of the 360. So they should not worry too much about the lesser score that they get. They should work on how they can improve from exam to exam. And so one of the few points that they have to work on to improve the confidence is basically they should review the fundamentals, like Sanjay sir said, and also if they are wasting time in deriving a formula or getting to know the formula, so they should be well prepared to remember some standard results and also remember some of the derivations where they can quickly apply in the examination so that they can save some time. So basically working on the fundamentals, whenever they're practicing any topic, they should observe the fundamentals, work on the fundamentals, remember some results, standard results, or any formulas or derivations. So this will boost their confidence. So this is one of the advice that I generally give to the students to improve the confidence.
That's a great piece of advice, Abhishek sir. Now moving on to the same line पे ही एक question है जो मेरे दिमाग में अभी at this moment आया कि जब stress को वही लोग handle नहीं कर पाते because they are struggling with their time क्योंकि कुछ चीजें miss हो रही हैं, कुछ चीजें नहीं cover हो पा रही हैं. So with the rich experience that you hold when it comes to your subject, your master there, so कुछ ऐसे अगर आप उनको tips दें जिससे वो 3 घंटे का जो examination है उसको अच्छे से prepare कर सके और हर एक time को utilize करके बिना वेस्ट किए कैसे वो अपने एग्जाम को कंप्लीट कर सकते हैं.
Right. So here I would like to discuss how one should manage the time, the 3 hours time that they have for the examination. So let's say a student has picked a particular subject map. Then I would advise a student to gaze that subject paper completely in the first 5 minutes, right? Whatever 18 questions and 20 questions are there, and differentiate all the questions into 3 types. So one is a question which they can solve right away. And second type of question is a question where they can solve, but it is a little bit lengthy. So they have to come back to that question. And a third type is tougher or unknown question, or a question which they never solved before, a model which they never solved before. So a student has to focus on the first 2 types because they have to remember that they are doing a targeted approach here. They're not here to solve every question. In the JEE Advanced History, there was never a case where they got 360 out of 360 or whatever, 432 out of 432. So they have to go for the targeted approach. So basically, they have to focus on the questions which they can solve right away and also on the questions which they can come back to. So that's how they should manage a particular subject paper. And also, they should not have something like, I have to solve this subject in 1 hour and physics in 1 hour and chemistry in 1 hour, because that strategy may not kind of work because it varies from difficulty of the paper. It varies because of the difficulty of the paper. So they should be varying the time limit that they solve for a particular subject according to the toughness of the paper, right? And also there's a crucial point here that how do we how do we address the time between the paper 1 and paper 2?
Right.
So many of the students will have a confusion in this. So here I would like to give 3 points. How do we spend that 2 hours time or 3 hours time between the paper 1 and paper 2? So first is, once you complete the paper 1, there'll always be that fear or excitement, or there'll be nerves in the student. So one has to calm down and also not to discuss the paper 1 or not to think of the paper 1 or the difficulty of the paper 1, right? First of all, they should calm down. They should look to get energized by eating some light food and also some cashews, almonds, or maybe a chocolate. They should feel energized first. And the second point which I would suggest is, again, they should eat a light food which will not make them feel drowsy for the second paper, because they have to stay active for 3 more hours again, right? And the third point is to not stay alone, but also not talk to your friends and all and discuss the things regarding any subject or regarding academics. They should talk to people who they feel confident with, maybe parents, and also not to stay far away from the center just because there is some restaurant which is good some 5 kilometers away.
I
When
think
you
we
return
lost.
from
I think we are facing technical difficulties. But Venkatesh sir, would you like to take this conversation ahead?
Yes, ma'am. So here, Kunsa, in between the papers, like sir has already mentioned, so during the 3 hours paper, so how to, Kunsa, deal with the paper, like easy, Kunsa, which question has to be discussed, which question has to be solved, Kunsa question can be solvable, and which question has to be, Kunsa kept for the further review, and question which cannot be solved, which cannot be solvable at all. And in between the time, as sir has already mentioned, that he, should not discuss, should not think about the paper one. And it also happened in the concert 2022 itself paper. What has happened is there were some students have faced some issue, some technical issue has been raised. There was some screen was zooming out. So many students have got frightened about frightened, and they got distracted. What has happened? This has happened only with me in the examination hall. Probably, others might have done very well because they may not have not faced this kind of technical issue. So these kind of points, they should not keep in mind. So what they should feel, ensure that okay, fine, if this is a problem is arise with me, probably the same problem might have arise with the other students as well.
Right.
So they should not, linger on whatever the problems has been happened in the paper one. So they should keep calm. And more importantly, very important is students should not discuss with other students about the paper one. अरे मेरे पेपर ये क्वेश्चन में ये इसका आंसर क्या था यार, इसका आंसर क्या है, तो वो डिस्कशन नहीं होना चाहिए पेपर 2 से पहले. So they should be as relaxed as possible, so that they can perform very well in the paper 2. And also they should have a very light food, so that should keep them energetic and highly concentrated for the paper 2. So if they have a too heavy food, that may create some drowsiness and all. And also they should avoid anything new food. Mean the food they have been taking from last 15 days or 1 month or so, they should take only that kind of food particularly. So it's better not to take any some random food like pizza and all. We are not celebrating the just after the paper we should not celebrate. So let us have a food which is a regular food.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, yes, the impact of food that it has on your body is tremendous. So make sure कि आप Abhishek sir और Venkatesh sir की advice को follow करें and have light food only. In fact, paper 1, paper 2 में ये तो sir बहुत common है. Sanjay sir, you would agree to the point कि बहुत सारे students actually में nervousness double कर देते हैं. We start discussing with them कि अरे इसका आंसर ये था. This has happened with me all the time. I did not score well because of the fact that I started sharing all my questions and answers with them. So any tip and advice do you want to like add to what Abhishek sir already mentioned, Venkatesh sir already mentioned? आपने कुछ ऐसा notice किया है कि एक particular habit होती है student की जो बहुत ही उनको कहीं ना कहीं suffer करने पे मजबूर करती है, and you should not do that?
So I think in a crux, I can say that just isolate yourself from the question paper, not from the people, not from the surrounding. And that is what you have to keep in mind, because this was an attempt for you, and you are unique, amazing, and you have done your best. So let's not do any comparison or assessment during that period. Rather, try to get into the activities or get into the talk with the people which can strengthen you, can motivate you. So that is what we can suggest over here.
Great. So we are getting questions from students as well. In fact, let's help them. So Tapa Sarkar ka question aaya hai, and she's asking how to deal with the FTS. It is very hard. Please help. Come on, Satapa, you are watching Akash Baiju's webinar series. How can you say that something is tough for you? My mentors are ready with the answer. So who would like to go first?
Yes, I'm just, I'll take this question because in fact, I already have a point on this to discuss. This is it's quite, nowadays the papers of FTS, particularly more importantly, if I say FTS 5 was a little difficult compared to the, other papers. And papers are, they are definitely, difficult than the original JEE Advanced, more importantly. Now, first of all, what I would like to tell here is key mock tests. What is the, why do we give the mock tests? What is the significance of giving the mock tests? If you understand that, the things will become very smooth. Now, to understand that, let's do this one. Key, when a student sits in a original JEE Advanced, so there are three things can happen. One, a student has to understand the pattern of the questions. Means there could be a single correct, multi-correct, matrix match, comprehension, or any new surprise can happen. Like in 2021, there's a STEM-based question have been introduced, which was never ever heard about that STEM word at all. So okay, we should be ready with that surprise. So first thing is students should get aware of the patterns. 1, 2. Students should know, if students know the model of questions already. Third point is solving becomes easier. So three things are the one which are the key takeaways from any mock tests. They should not worry about the performance of the performance of the FTS or be it any mock tests. Rather, they should focus on these 3 points. Point 1, they should why they are giving mock tests. It is because they should get acquainted with the pattern of questions. 2, if they are already familiar with the model of questions, then solving the question will become easier in original JEE Advanced, because if they have solved already that model question, they don't have to spend again in how to solve the question. They can right away start solving the question. That will save the time. So these FTS papers are difficult. Okay, so what they should do is they should solve each and every question even after the examination, because every question has its own uniqueness. And this the beauty of these questions in FTS are all questions have been very properly crafted, which are at par with the original JEE Advanced or maybe a higher level of advance. So solving each and every question of this mock tests of this FTS more particularly, that will definitely help them getting acquainted with the patterns and getting models of the questions. Because it normally it happens that if you solve the PYQs, what is the significance of solving PYQs? It never happens that whatever questions have been asked in previous concept 2021, 2020, whatever a year, that will not be directly asked in JEE Advanced, not in mains. What is the use of solving PYQs is they will get an idea of how the questions will be framed. What is the models of questions can be asked, be it a JEE Advanced or be it a JEE mains. Now, this FTS or any other mock test will help them getting a different models of questions, be it a physics, chemistry, or mathematics. So this is a key takeaway one should have, rather than thinking about the performance or thinking about the marks in FTS or be it any mock tests.
Right. In fact, Abhishek sir, there's a question. Huzefa wants to know how to clear backlogs of 11th and 12th. If you could help her with this.
Here will be not to worry too much on the backlogs. Actually, not if the backlog is something new, I would advise them not to start something new. And if it is a known concept, then they should again read the notes and also solve the PYQs which are related to it. And there should be ensure that it should be a most important topic and a relatively easy one. Right. So those backlogs should not be a topic which has something new, and it should also be an important topic. If it is an important topic and a known and also an easy topic for them, I would suggest them to again solve the PYQs related to it and look at the clarity on solving. They have to go
Okay, we missed out what he was trying to say. So, Sanjay sir, मेरे को एक question है जो बहुत time से was thinking I should ask. अब बात आती है common mistakes की जो बहुत सारे students कर ही देते हैं and at the end they crib and cry कि उसका score जो है वो इसी वजह से hamper हो गया. So let's talk about those common mistakes जो आपने बहुत सारे students को करते हुए देखा है. So today they have the opportunity to learn from those mistakes and never repeat it. So क्या है वो ऐसी गलतियां?
All right. So, first of all, mistakes are part of life, not heart of life, and the journey which you all had gone through was filled with lot of mistakes and learning, isn't it? So, but in this remaining 15 days of time, it's very, very important the kind of mistakes you are making. And is there any mistake which you are attempting at this present is not being categorized? For example, when a child attend any exam, there are majorly 3 types of mistake what they attend. One is lack of recall. At the right time, they were failing to recall the data, the theory part, the graphical representation, or whatsoever is the necessary requirement. Second is the conceptual error. You are going through the question and over and over again, but failing to initiate the solution part. And third, which is least expected, because JEE advanced aspirants are very much strong in maths aspect. So third is the mathematical mistake. But yes, as we mentioned in the beginning of this session, there are certain statements, there are certain equations, which rather you learn by heart instead of driving it at the time of exam, because it takes time. For example, they have asked average time of 1 by t and limit 0 to t sine square omega t dt. So instead of getting the answer by driving it, better you remember the statement, better you remember the direct answers of such statement, which are highly, repeated in not only in physics, even in chemistry, also in mathematics. So one thing is categorization of your mistakes. Either it is lack of recall, conceptual error, or mathematical mistakes, right? The second thing, now lot of students, they have access to a lot of material. It's just a click away. If I am struggling with a particular chapter, I'll just type it and I'll get, a number of books, number of videos which are there. So in this particular amount of time, it is very, very important, the material which you are accessing for this preparation. So now they have the access to a lot of material, and they have to be focused on only on the material which they are following since beginning. Every book which is there in the market will be good for you, right? But is it helping you to dictate the problem? Is it helping you to get your error analysis done or not? That's the question. Because, I don't want to quote any book, but yes, all the books has their plus minus, right? So in this remaining 15 days of time, rather exploring in terms of different material, different test series and the different textbooks, it's very, very important to stick upon the material which you are referring, which have been already guided by your faculties, your mentor. So that is the second thing. Skipping on error analysis, which is a very, very crucial point for all of you, because as I mentioned that if you are done with your revision, you can go with the full assessment on a full scale. If you are doing your revision, a part of the test series, then you have to keep a fine balance between them. But in addition to that, try to give some time for error analysis as well, because until unless you will not be knowing what kind of error you are attempting in the exam, it would be really difficult to find a best solution of it, right? Last but not the least, no new learning, because as I mentioned, there is no battle of getting new things now. It's the time where whatever learning it's being done in the previous years, it's the time where you recapture everything, recollect, consolidate, and try to convert all that thing into the marks of paper 1 as well as of paper 2.
Absolutely, Sanjay sir. So I hope हमारे students जो हैं वो सुन रहे हैं और इन advices को follow भी करने वाले हैं. Now taking away the same question, and in fact chat box में जो discussion चल रहा है और जो इस platform पे at this moment discussion चल रहा है वो काफी similar ही है. So Venkatesh sir, if you could help Rohit Sharma, because he also wants to understand कि silly mistakes को कैसे avoid किया जा सकता है. And we were talking about the common mistakes जो students करते ही हैं and how they can improve accuracy. If you could throw light on this कि कैसे इसको tackle किया जा सकता है.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So here, yes, silly mistakes can be of multiple ways. Like, there are multiple silly mistakes can be possible. One silly mistake possibility is like, they read the question little incorrect. I mean to say, In the question, it is mentioned as incorrect. So, but what they do is, they look for the option 1 as for the incorrect and option 2 incorrect. But once it comes to the option 3, they start thinking about the correct. But they miss out the incorrect point and they start writing, they start thinking about the correct. So option 3 is about correct choice and option 4 is about correct choice. So, okay, what I would suggest that while dealing with this kind of questions, they will be given a paper in the examination hall. So question, they must write the question, and as if it is a paper-based test, it would have been, then we could have highlighted that incorrect or correct. But here, as we don't, as it is online based, so what we can do is we can write it down. We can jot it down. Yeah, this question is a incorrect. The question I have to option find the option which is incorrect. So mention there as a incorrect. This is one kind of silly mistake. Generally, people do it.
Okay.
Incorrect or correct. Two is about some options. Let us suppose answer for a given option is after solving the question, I'm getting it as option as the answer as 3. Let us suppose, and in the options, that option the fourth option contains the value 3. Now, generally, what students do is they start thinking about the option 3 because I've solved the answer and I've got the answer as a 3. So 3 is the correct answer. But rather option 3 contains some other value, and option 4 contains actually this value. So this is a second common mistake what people do. So this is a second mistake. And third, very general mistake they do is they don't read the question properly. They don't read the question properly, or they don't read the question completely. So they read the question, part of the question, they start solving the question. Now this is a very big silly mistake. One should avoid. They must read the question completely. They must understand the question. Then they should start solving the questions. So these are the common silly mistakes what people do, and this is the tricks from my side.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, because कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है कि चीजें बहुत ही simple और obvious होती हैं और उसमें भी we end up making fallacies. So यहाँ पे you can actually be very focused and conscious, well aware कि आप किस तरीके से अपना answer कर रहे हैं questions को. अब क्योंकि question paper की बात start हो ही गई है अभिषेक sir. So what should be the strategy on the day of the examination? When it comes to attempting the paper, if you could tell us कि कैसे students को start करना चाहिए, what strategy should one follow to attempt different types of sections, given the paper, like numerical type हो गया, multiple correct choices हो गए. How do we deal with that?
Right. This is a pretty important question, and I hope everyone pays proper attention, because what the exam day strategy or the strategy just prior to the examination is what is going to define your 365 days of preparation, because this may change the things, right? So let's start with the strategy prior to the examination. So on the previous days, you should have a light kind of food, and we should have a proper sleep pattern 3 or 4 days prior to it. Having that 7 hours or 6.5 hours of sleep is necessary. And since we know what time we have to report on the day of examination, the center of examination, so we should plan accordingly. Like this is the time at which I should sleep, and this is the time at which I should reach the center. So you reach the center well before time, and make it. Do not try to make it in a hurried manner, because that may create a stress again to that particular student, right? And also during your journey to the center, try to avoid reading any kind of reading or any formulas reading. People often do. Even the toppers tend to do study also. So one should avoid this kind of thing. Now, when it comes to the strategy of the examination, right? So you must have worked out what strategy is giving you the best scores in the mock test, right? So try not to change the strategy despite of change in the patterns in the examination. Do not try any new strategy in the examination. So for example, let's say picking the favorite subject is your strategy. So again, when you pick your favorite subject, so again, gauge the paper and pick out the questions which you want to solve. And again, as I was mentioned earlier, differentiate the questions into 3 levels and focus on the first 2 levels also, and never touch a question which you don't know, or if it is an unknown concept, you never try to do such question. And the second thing is to boost marks. We have to utilize the patterns of the JEE Advanced very well. So first is a student should expect a surprise in the JEE Advanced. As Venkatesh sir has mentioned, STEM-based questions were a surprise in 2021. So be mentally prepared for any sort of surprise, right? And also in the order of, while you pick the order of the pattern, so always prefer a model of question which will take less amount of time. For example, you always start with integers or single correct questions and the paragraphs or stem based, and you go for a one or more or match the following. The reason why one should attempt a one or more or match the following is every option in a one or more is like a new question to you. So it may eat up your time. It may take a lot of time to solve a one or more. And it is also a question which has highest negative marking. Sometimes he may give you -2 also, right? So we should attempt these sort of questions at the end and integer questions at the starting. So let me give one start, and while attempting one or more also, there is one more strategy, that is we have to utilize the partial marking very well, which is been introduced in the recent years, right? So if you are sure of the options, and then you should go with those options only and not be greedy and then pick the third option or the fourth option just because there's a feeling that it may be correct, right? One should avoid doing those and be very sure of what options you're going to put. So I'll just give one stat of the JEE Advanced 2021 here. About 3% of the qualified questions, 3% of the qualified students were able to do most of the one or more questions correctly, right? So let's take a particular question. Only 3% of the qualified students were able to completely get the correct answer for that one or more, right? And you often find 70 to 80% of the students getting incorrect, the one or more questions incorrect, and some 15 to 20% of the students get it partially correct. So this stat it's not just for the 2021 exam, it's been there since years, last 10 years or 15 years. So one should be so they should utilize the partial marking very well. So they should mark the answers which they get only, and not because of some hunch or not some guessing. They should not go for that. And one should avoid solving one or more at the starting of an examination, even if it is the first section, even if it is like a section 1 for you. I would advise students to go for a numerical integer or a single correct, and then go for the one or more at the end of the examination.
Okay. I do not know about these stats, and I'm very, very shocked that students are committing these kind of mistakes. Matlab, yeah, you have to be very, very aware and conscious. And I think this is the moment जहाँ पे आप ये सारी चीजें सीख सकते हो through our panelists. So मैं बिना distract हुए next question वेंकटेश सर से पूछना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि अब क्वेश्चन पेपर्स की बात हो ही रही है, जहाँ पे अभिषेक सर ने मुझे तो डरा दिया that students are not reading the questions correctly. So can you tell all of our viewers how to read a question?
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, here, so again, as I already mentioned this point just minutes back, okay, normally what students do is, they rush out about the questions. So what students, what is a correct method of reading a question is, they must read the question and they must read the options as well. Then they should start solving the question. Because most of the times it happens that options will guide you what should be the strategy in solving the question, be it a physics, chemistry, mathematics. And in fact, I would say more particularly if I talk about as I'm a chemistry teacher. So if I particularly about the organic chemistry, so it works really wonderful, right? Or you must, go through the options, once, of course, those who are, which contains the options. The one numerical questions can be, taken care of, with a different strategy. But, so these option-based questions, first you must read the question, then read the options, then start solving the question. So this is the correct way of solving the question.
Okay, so because आपने question पढ़ने की strategy तो बता दी, but is there a technique to solve questions in physical, organic, and inorganic chemistry?
Yeah, that's that's again a very important point. Here, there are a lot of points are there for physical, organic, and inorganic chemistry questions. Coming to the point of organic chemistry question, so nowadays, first of all, the questions are of the whole chemistry. Whatever question has been asking, the question is not only purely based on organic, not purely based on inorganic, not purely based on physical chemistry. It's it's a combination of concepts. And the trend in the recent papers, the trend is in the case of organic chemistry, such a way that almost every organic chemistry question consists of some mole concept introduced in it. So they have to solve the organic chemistry, organic reactions, and vis-a-vis, the students have to know the mole concept strategy as well. So for organic chemistry, for solving organic chemistry questions, so what students can do is, the questions can be as compound A gives some B, C, and finally they give some structure of the compound, the product compound. Now, what normally students do is they start solving the question from the beginning. Means what could be the possible compound A based on the reagents given. As I just mentioned, that is not the correct way. First of all, you have to look at the options. If there's options are there, you can look at the options and just check what are the possible compounds A, B, and C, or the missing compounds you have. This is one. Two, these questions should be solved in a backwards. Means first you must once you have the product, they must trace backwards to what is the possible structure of a just before that product given. So this is one strategy. And if there are multiple reactions are there, and if there are more than one compound has been given, so students has to try to understand first of all whatever compounds have been given, they have to understand what are the possible missing products are. What I mean to say is they should directly jump. They should not directly jump into solving the question. First of all, they should see what are the products given, then look for the options. Then look for the questions, the compounds which are missing compounds. This is one strategy for the organic chemistry. And for inorganic chemistry, I would say there are two strategies there for inorganic chemistry. One is it works most oftenly where you have some balanced reactions, or maybe a reaction has been given, you have to identify some missing products, or maybe products have been given, you have to find the missing reactants. Oxidation states will really help in this case. Okay, so if you can identify the options in which based on the oxidation states, you can ignore the options, or you can cross down the options and you can come to the final answer. This is one strategy for inorganic chemistry. And another strategy for inorganic chemistry is some hidden reactions will be given, or by knowing some reactions at other stages where we can get the answer for this inorganic. Now probably it will getting confused. Let me just clarify it. Let us suppose you have a magnesium bicarbonate. Okay, it's responsible for a temporary hardness. So when you boil, one of the methods to remove the temporary hardness is by boiling basically. So when you boil magnesium bicarbonate, so it will not form as a magnesium carbonate, rather it forms as a magnesium hydroxide, MgOH twice. Now, if question is asked, what is somewhere the question has been asked, which of the following compound is soluble or insoluble? So we can get the piece of information from this concept, that is about the temporary hardness concept, and we can answer that this question using that particular concept. Right, so because I have read that in during degree of hardness, or during the removal of temporary hardness, I have read that magnesium hydroxide is insoluble. So for this particular question, if question is asked based on which compound is soluble or insoluble, then I should quickly understand that magnesium hydroxide is an insoluble compound. So this is you should able to link between one concept or one area of the concept to the another area of concepts. This is the inorganic chemistry strategy you can follow. For physical chemistry, you have to understand the formula first. You should not directly use the formula, because the questions of in JEE Advanced, they will not be purely based on formulas. They will test your conceptual understanding of the formula, how much you have understood the formula. It's not like PV is equals to nRT. It's not just like that. You must understand what is the pressure there. Whether it is a pressure inside pressure, it's outside pressure. If it is N is there, the moles, that N the moles is whether it's inside the moles present inside the container or outside the container, if it is asked. So you must understand the formula, not just knowing the formula will not be helpful. So first read the question, then students need to understand the formula, then they have to apply the formula. This is for the physical chemistry. So this is the small tricks and strategies students can follow for physical, organic, and inorganic chemistry questions.
Got it. So I hope students को ये pattern और ये explanation काफी helpful लगा होगा. Now we're running short of time, so I'll quickly jump to very important things before we close today's session. Abhishek sir, Sanjay sir, any last minute tips and advices you want to give to all our students who are waiting? कि क्या कुछ भी हो सकता है. It can be helping them by saying that these are the things you must do and these are the things you must not do.
Yeah, so specifically talking about physics. So after seeing the question paper of JEE Advanced of previous years, the one common observation what every child will have in the examination hall, that question seems to be very lengthy. You know, many a times it happens that the question starts from one page and ending to the next page, you know. But we need to really classify it. We need to really understand it, that what the term lengthiness means for this particular question. It could be lengthy due to the calculation involved in this, or it could be the fusion of multiple concepts, or maybe both of them. And the explanation become more smart when it include a diagram, because the chances would be high. So first of all, be mentally prepared for that, if question seems to be lengthy does not mean it will be harder to crack. You have to split the questions into the possible statements, pull out the relevant data, frame the equations so that you are reaching to the conclusion. That is one thing I would definitely suggest, because that is one thing which I keep talking to the students and I keep getting this feedback is a question paper and questions seems to be like a paragraph. So this is one thing. And second thing is that every question could be a fusion of multiple concepts or data or diagram or graphs. So you need to really pull it into all the best possible ways so that you are reaching to each and every step. As sir was talking about, more than an option correct. So it's a something which is a very favorable segment for you, where you not need to be very much adamant that no, I'll get all the 3 options or all the 4 options which are correct, I'll get that, then only I'll move to the next question. No, this could be one of the favorable segment for you which you can really focus upon. So these are the 2 things which I would suggest from physics point of view, ma'am.
Abhishek sir.
Right, ma'am. So I would again second Sanjay's point here, that one has to have a patience and read the question thoroughly despite of the length of the question, because one should be mentally prepared that there will be at least 4 lines or 5 lines in a JEE advanced question that basically tests your patience. So read the question and break it into different sentences and extract information from each sentence and map them or join those dots, right? And before that, some students often attack the question directly. They think that they know the answer for this. So what they should do is have a pre-thought first, how they are going to solve. There may be multiple ways to solve a question. Now, what way is going to suit this particular question? Have a pre-thought for 30 seconds or 1 minute or so, and then go for with that method only, because we cannot come back and again resolve the question. We cannot afford to do that in the examination. So again, have the patience to read the question properly, break the question into different sentences, especially in coordinate geometry, extract information from each question and then join those dots. And the last point is, which I would suggest, is have the fundamentals, remember the formulas or derivations properly, which will save a hell of a time for you in the examination. That is pretty important.
So with this, we'll come to the end of today's webinar. बहुत ही informative और enriching, at least मेरे लिए था. I hope आप लोगों को भी ये session उतना ही informative लगा होगा और आपको भी लग रहा होगा कि आधी problems मेरी resolve हो चुकी हैं. Rest I can take care myself. So on that note, I want to thank Abhishek sir, Venkatesh sir, Sanjay sir. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you so very much,
ma'am,
and all the best wishes to all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, all the best.
All the best, guys. Stay focused, stay calm, do very well in the examination.
And ready for the surprise.
So, with this, we've come to the end of today's webinar, and thank you so much for, showing all the great enthusiasm and the questions, of course. हमारे mentors ने भी बहुत enjoy किया इन सवालों का, and I hope कि आपको answers मिले होंगे इन questions के through. So, हम इसी तरीके के webinars future में भी conduct करते रहेंगे. In fact, जो हमारा next webinar होने वाला है, वो JOSA counseling process पे होगा. So, stay tuned for more details. उसकी information भी हम आप तक definitely पहुंचाएंगे, और उसके लिए आपको क्या करना है? You have to subscribe to our channel, click on the bell icon, so that you're the first person who's notified with the recent updates. So with this, I will also sign off. लेकिन अगर कोई भी information आपको चाहिए, you can visit our website. It is www.akash.ac.in. वहाँ पे सारी relevant information आपका wait कर रही है. Share this webinar with your friends and family, because बहुत सारे ऐसे discussions हैं जो और किसी platform पे नहीं होते, लेकिन सिर्फ आकाश live webinar में हम उन चीजों को discuss करते हैं. So yes, before leaving, I must congratulate you all and also wish you all the best for your future endeavors, and I shall see you next time. Till then, you take care. Bye-bye.